Welcome back. This is Tribe Company Culture Academy. I'm so glad you're here as a leader trying to improve your understanding of what company culture is, the importance of it when you're building a team. And if you're a founder, CEO, and entrepreneur, you know this is inevitable. You will need team members. You will need people to come on board. And it's so much easier when you can bring people on shared values and a shared purpose. And that's why Tribe, the reason we started this is because we envision a world where leaders like you are transforming the workplace into thriving communities. Right? So you're back in course one. This is all about company culture. But the first two videos in this course are particularly about perks, parties, and pretense. It's all about the misconceptions that exist around company culture. So before we start talking about how to develop your company culture, how to use the Tribe Company Culture framework, we thought it would be best to take you through what company culture is not. What are the misconceptions that exist in our workplace, in the world of work, that are kind of muddling up things in people's minds, and they don't understand, how do I actually go about building a good company culture? So there are a ton of misconceptions out there in the workplace about what company culture is. So let's try to debunk some of them. So company culture has become this kind of hot topic, this huge topic that people are talking about everywhere, especially after the pandemic and the great resignation. Company culture has become this huge topic that a lot of people are talking about. But, as it's become, very popular, it's also become very obvious to some people that, your leaders in the company, like even your high level executives or your strategic leaders, your people leaders, don't necessarily know what company culture is and how important it is to not only the business and its growth, but how important it is to the people and how those people actually add to the company culture and help with the growth of the business as well. So let's see if any of these misconceptions surprise you. All right. Misconception number one is perks are what make up company culture. In-person or digital and social events are company culture. Have you heard of that? Like, so many people think, we've got swag, we've got these events and these cool parties that we have. They think that is what company culture is. But in essence, that's just additional engagement activities that are out there. But it's not truly what makes up the whole piece that makes up company culture. So imagine for a moment you are part of this company that does cool stuff and they, do cool events and they send you cool swag and things like that. But during your work week, your 40-hour work week, let's just say, your manager kind of ignores you and your co-workers are constantly competing with each other and you. And it's happening because it's unclear how people actually get promotions, how people actually collaborate. There's no real framework. There's no real communication around that. Plus, you just found out that someone higher up in your company arbitrarily has kind of decided that they're going to be changing a new software tool. All right. And they did this without even talking to you or anyone else who actually uses the tool. Oh, and they want you to keep doing all your regular work while you migrate all your projects onto this new software before they cancel the subscription of the old software. And by the way, that's all due in 2 weeks. So in this moment, while you're going through this, all the fun activities and all the social events and all the cool t-shirts and tote bags and fun, cool games that this company organized that you enjoyed are not going to make you feel like you are an employee who is in a company that has a good culture. So you can see clearly that there's a disconnect. And for you as a leader, the recognition needs to be that the events and swag don't build or fix company culture. These perks and social events are a good way of supporting company culture, but they don't actually make up company culture. And there's nothing wrong with running social events and giving your employees all these perks, but there's a big problem if you think that is company culture. Now, before we start looking into what company culture is, what is the first company that comes to mind when you think about amazing perks in the workplace? For me, it is Google, right? We've heard a lot of stories about Google's perks and fun things that they do in their campus and their workplace. Did you know that most of their people programs, their culture initiatives, apart from their cafes and shuttles and stuff like that, don't cost Google anything? They just give permission to entrepreneurs to set up the initiative so that Google employees can take advantage of it. Plus, Google employees can help shape the offerings by suggesting types of services that would help them out if the service were close to the office. The opportunity for Google's culture in offering these programs is really in creating community, efficiency, and innovation. They also have employee resource groups and host speakers and tech talks on internal development that promote these parts of their culture as well. Think about it, some of the best innovations happen because people who otherwise might not have bumped up into each other start up a conversation at while they're picking up their bike or at a Women and Google event or something of that sort. So if you take a step back, the values that Google is demonstrating and the culture they're developing is centered around helping people connect, which is good for people and good for business. And it's not just about the perks themselves. So anyone out there who still thinks that perks are what make up a company culture has a very shallow way of thinking about people's experience at work, right? Rock climbing and company branded merch have very little to do with someone's experience as an employee. See how those are different to what Google's offering people? Google is coming up with ways that actually help people with their errands or provide them with a space to meet other like-minded employees. And they're not random social events just sprinkled here and there throughout the year. So every leader in every company should be able to talk about what their company culture is all about and not even have to mention their perks. I mean, again, perks can be included as part of what is done to support culture, but they are not culture themselves. All right, moving on to misconception number 2, which is company culture is what a business says about itself on the website. The value section or the about us page is the company culture, right? That's what most people think. Oh, where do we find out what this company is all about and what's its company culture about? Oh, the about us page or the values page. It's become very commonplace and even expected that companies will publish their values on their website, right? And values are definitely an integral part of company culture. I mean, values is part of the Tribe company culture framework. Is the first step that we take you through. But it's also wonderful to see a trend towards people wanting to understand what kind of environment they're getting themselves into when they start a new job. Unfortunately, though these values posted on the website, they may be a true reflection of what the company's values are. But more often than not, they are just part of what we like to call optics culture, right? Most companies understand that looking like they have a good culture is important, but only some are actually working on making their values part of their actual work experience, actual employee experience. So optics are meant to build a certain perception, right? But this term is commonly attributed to politics where a political candidate may be seen shaking hands and kissing babies for the photo op. But the candidate is actually working towards policies that will take social services away from the same people. The photos make the politician look good, right? But the reality is that actions speak louder than pictures in the news or catchy phrases on the About Us section ever will. So if you need some proof of this, check out how different some reviews are on Glassdoor for companies compared to what they say about themselves on their own website. Posting company values means nothing if it's not part of the day-to-day experience of the employee and something that leadership actually uses to make decisions. A company should be easily able to demonstrate these values in their day-to-day decisions, day-to-day employee experience, and that's where we see that these actions speak louder than the words in business. For example, if a company is all about work-life balance, then put that on your website and actually practice that in your company. But if it's more about a work hard, play hard vibe, then let people know in advance. Don't publish on your website that we care about work-life balance because that's what the trend is and that's what people are talking about. But then you expect them to have the work hard, play hard vibe. That's a mismatch in communication about your values. So if you do really value collaboration, post that on your website. If you want individual performers, then that's what goes onto your website. And the thing is, none of these are right or wrong. The point is to tell the truth about what you truly value in your company and what it's like to work at your company, and not posting something that's just an optics culture, but you're doing something completely different. So if you want hustlers in your company, send that out as a signal. Talk about that in your communication. That will invite and pull in people who have that same mentality. If you want people who dream and take time to come up with innovative solutions and ideas and want to brainstorm a lot, it's easier to find those people if you're honest about what your expectations are. Frankly, it's bad business if you promote yourself in a way that is not really reflective of the reality of working in that company. New hires will see this immediately and they'll be able to sense this disconnect pretty quickly, which may lead to unmotivated or hard to retain employees. So if you think about both the misconceptions we just talked about, misconception number 1 and 2 are just going through the motions of trying to make it look like the company has a great place to work and has a great culture. It's like putting rose-colored glasses, some sort of filter, an Instagram filter, but the truth behind it is not what it actually looks like through those filters. Within a solid culture model, both perks and putting values on your website are great, right? But they aren't actually the culture itself. The misconception comes in when people say that perks, events, and blurbs on their website are their culture. So hopefully busting some of these misconceptions is giving you a better idea of what company culture is not, right? It's really important to understand what it's not before we can try to figure out what it is and how to develop that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you understood the 2 misconceptions that we went through about perks and optics culture. In the next video, I'm going to take you through 2 more misconceptions. So I'll see you there.